So I was looking at some numbers yesterday from the advertising measurement agencies, and the one thing that I realized was, unlike what popular perception is, digital is as impacted in terms of advertising revenue degrowth because of COVID as other media is. Of course, print is very severely impacted, but digital is also in some ways as impacted as television is. And I think over the last many years, Google and Facebook, especially the tech companies, which some people like to call them media tech companies, have done a very good job of going to the bottom of the funnel, which is the SMEs and the smaller businesses, and getting them to spend advertising money on platforms, search platforms, and social media platforms. And obviously, those businesses are much, much harder hit. Not to say that the large corporates are not, but the smaller business have much lesser sustenance power. So, what is Facebook doing to get these business kind of, get them kind of going again? Because the impact on SME is going to last much longer than it will, be on a large bank or a large auto company. SMEs will find it very tough for maybe 18, 24 months to get going again.
I think
And
it's
I'm
an
guessing
amazing, yeah. Naval, I think it's such a multi-layered question, right? So it's worth kind of lingering on that for a bit because there are so many parts to the question that you asked. I think at the very uber level, I think if your question is, has digital been hit as well over the last few months? The answer is absolutely yes. We're all on the same boat, right? I think when there is such a big thing that happens in the world, I don't think there is there is no way to kind of be on an island. We're such a part of how well we do depends on how well our clients do, how well our partners do, and everyone in the world has been impacted. So that's one thing to call out. Now, having said that, I think there are a couple of things that I need to point out. Right, one, to the earlier conversation with Anurag, the reality is that companies are realizing that there is an acceleration in the shift from offline to online. And that is true for consumer behavior. And that is true for businesses creating a presence online, leveraging online tools, uh, putting a lot more of their strategic energy online than they used to. And that will benefit digital companies. That's the reality of it, right? I mean, I think if the world is going more digital, then all of the digital participants will benefit. That's the other part of it. The third part of this is, um, I think there is a question that you're asking about uh, the economic recovery and the recovery of small businesses.
All businesses, and what
Yeah,
Facebook can do to kind of get the ecosystem going again.
yeah, and there are two parts to it, and you're completely right that Facebook is disproportionately focused on small businesses, and there's a reason for it. I don't know whether Facebook is disproportionately focused, but small businesses disproportionately focus their energy on Facebook, and there's a reason for it, I think, which is um, the entire marketing platform on Facebook has been very, very geared towards delivering measurable impact, right? I think in our world, what we call performance money, right? You can exactly know
Sure.
if we hadn't spent $1 on Facebook versus if we had spent $1, what is exactly the incremental impact you got from that? Now, so much of our conversation in the media world tend to be on input metrics, right? How many people watched the ad? How long did they watch the ad? Reality is, I think we operate in the world of impact and outcomes. Independent of whatever the input may be, finally, what really measures is, did you get value for the money that you spent? And I think our entire marketing platform, the advertising engine, has been tuned towards delivering that impact. And therefore, small businesses tend to use us more because they can't afford to get it wrong. They're very frugal. They don't have a lot of money. And therefore, the most frugal marketing spend tends to be made on Facebook. And therefore, the emphasis on small businesses. Having said that, I think what we are realizing, Naval, is uh, whether large or small businesses, they're coming back. And even if they're coming back with 60 or 70 or 80% of what they were doing in February or March, they're realizing that they have to put a lot more of that on digital, because A, they can see measurable outcomes, and B, to the conversation that Anurag started, a lot more of the behavior is online. So I do think, one, I'm seeing recovery, right? I'm seeing very good green shoots. I'm seeing a lot more energy on digital, and we're seeing that disproportionately. That is, showing up as a disproportionate share of digital ad spend. I want to finish with one last thing, and both of you who have spent so much time in this space will kind of understand why I'm saying this. But I also think this was a moment when, the narrative for the last 15 years has been that the mass media vehicle is television, right? It's been the only mass media vehicle in India, and frankly, for a lot of that time, that's been true. I think on the back of what Geo and the other telecom operators have done in the last 4 years, where we now have 500, 600 million users with good quality broadband engaging daily, I actually think there has been a turning point where the mass media vehicle now is digital, where platforms that have daily engagement of the order of magnitude of 400, 500 million users, suddenly I think that is the largest vehicle now. And I do think marketers haven't moved fast enough to recognize that the needle has moved in terms of pointing mass media to from television to digital, and it'll take a while in any case where there is a behavioral shift which challenges the norm of the last 15, 20 years. It may take a bit of time to embrace that and start translating that to where you put your energy. But I think that has happened. I'm keen to see, the lag before marketers realize that this has happened.
Thank you, Ajit. I just want to ask you one personal question and one follow up from what you just said. Uh, if digital is going to be the way forward, I want to ask you a question. Where do you see uh, digital revenues being in the next 18 months overall? So the Indian advertising industry is about 75,000 crores pre-COVID. It may have degrown by 15,000 crores in this quarter. But if it was 75,000 crores in March 2020, where will it be in March 2022?
I don't know, Anurag, but I'll tell you two things. And I look at this, and for me, the question to ask really is, what can we do to aid the economic recovery, right? We benefit when the economy does well,
Sure.
right? Even from a self-interested lens, it's good for us when the economy is doing well. So for me, the energy is in few places, right? One, because we play a particular role in the small business world, we believe we can aid the recovery of that world. So that means engaging with them even more. The grant program we have started. There are a couple of other things that we are working on, which we're going to announce in the next few weeks. So if we can help small businesses, I think that's one. I think the Geo partnership and what we're doing in the WhatsApp and GeoMod partnership is specifically meant to accelerate those 60 million businesses to come online. And if we're able to do that in the next 18 months, I think it'll have a massively positive impact on the economy. So that's one. The other part is, I think we can help if businesses, large or small, are fundamentally looking at digital and saying, there's an aha moment. There were people who were already savvy. There were people who were on the, who was on the kind of on the boundary line, saying, should I kind of dive in? Yeah. And then there were people for whom it was like, oh my God, have I missed the boat? I think our role is to make sure that for all those three constituencies, we are showing up and making sure that we are working with them to accelerate their digitization with tools, with knowledge, with learnings from other companies, and frankly, making sure that those learnings are transferred in India. because a lot of that enterprise and innovation is happening in India. So I look at this and I'm optimistic because the arc of our economy is facing upwards, right? That's not going to change.
Absolutely.
All of the drivers are in place. And then I'm asking the question, what can I, as a leader, and what can Facebook as a company to enable the economic recovery? And that's where all our energy is.
Ajit, your own personal journey. You studied undergrad in Singapore, then you worked for a couple of years, and then you studied at Wharton, and then you worked with Arthur D. Little, you worked with McKinsey. You've done well for yourself you worked for the best of companies. You had an impact in the jobs that you led. Now, tell us, with this new economy, what are the new skills that are required by each professional? Some skills remain the same. What are the new skills? Of course, like, understanding data sciences, right? So tell us, as a leader, as a professional who's accomplished so much and continues to be in the play and relevant, what is your advice to professionals who want to do well in this digital economy?
Thank you, Anurag. Thank you for being kind.
I was being factual.
No, you were being very kind. I honestly, Anurag, I think only one thing: openness and learning agility. I think that's the only sort of attribute you need to be successful. It's become so cliched now, but I do think it's true that there's a lot of complexity in the world. I think you're thrown new challenges every day. And I think more than the hard skills will come, right? Whether it's coding or mathematics, those will come. But I think when I look at people that I have learned from, people that I continue to learn from, frankly, Anurag, and both of your own journey, from starting Exchange for Media to owning a journal like Business World, I think fundamental to that is just being open and saying every day I have an opportunity to learn. I've seen a lot of people, both successful and not so successful, I think way too early declare to themselves that they have cracked it. I know the answer. And I think that's the only mistake that can be made. I think so long as you, this is an easy one, right, to say, but I don't think it's an easy one to live. I think all of us at some point, everything which kind of, that openness to learning, when we apply that learning and when we become successful, the cue to our brain is, oh, okay, you've cracked it, you've done it. So I do think it's extraordinarily hard to maintain, and I think it gets harder as you grow older to kind of maintain openness. And I genuinely think it's going to become even more important in a world, as you said, which will be dominated by new economy, which for me means nothing but there's going to be more complexity and more change.
Ajit, I just want to ask you one, and you want to duck it, I perfectly okay, but if you want, you have interacted with, if I say, India's most agile business person and possibly the fastest learner, Mr. Mukesh Ambani. While you've been involved in that relationship, tell us, what have you learned from interacting with him?
Yeah, completely. And I think Mukesh Bhai and the team have demonstrated just in the last few months their agility. And frankly, I think, I've seen him a bit. I've seen his team a lot more. I've been amazed by what they've built in Jio. All of us know the story, and I know, spending time with Manoj Bhai and Akash and others going back to 14 and 15, how much skepticism there was in the world about what they said they were going to do. And for me, what they've done with Jio, there was no parallel for it. There was no playbook that they could follow. And they have materially changed the world. They've changed India and they've changed the world. And I think it's the boldness of the thinking and it's the diligence to the execution. I think it's them. And frankly, Anurag, I think I've had the opportunity to work with other people whose learning and openness have been fabulous. Uday is a great example. I think, I spent 7 years with him. I think extraordinary ability to not be encumbered by the success of the previous day in terms of bringing openness to the next day. Sanjay, equally.
Both
So I do think
fantastic,
I've had,
fantastic profession.
yeah, I think I've been lucky to, in the last 10 years or so in India, after I came back, I've had the opportunity to work with people who have been both wise and open, and at the same time translated that to the willingness to take big bets.
I just want to ask you this. Since you have in your past job dealt with media sales professional, you dealt with media buyers, don't know how much granularity, but I would assume at some stage you have
A lot of
sense
granularity. Yeah.
right. Now, what is your advice to them? And what is your advice to brands? So, one to the sellers in general, because you have a view of both the world, old world, so to say, and the new world. So, what is your advice to them to survive, to thrive, to have this openness and the agility of learning? Of course, will matter, but some more specific advice.
I think I don't know, I can give you something specific. I think, and given I imagine this is a media and marketing community, is I do think too much of our conversation tends to be on uh, uh, input metrics, if I can put it that crudely. I think you want me to be specific. It's on, you know, um, uh, rating points, viewability, um, and I don't think enough of the conversation is on impact for clients. What did I do that had a specific impact for your business? And equally, I think for all the clients and marketers, I think it is time to raise the bar, and ask the demanding, challenging questions on what is the impact that you're having. And for me, that's where sort of the next level of the marketing or the media conversation should go to, because I think if we all raise the bar and look at the impact of media, because in at least in the advertising context, I think it's the context in which you ask the question. The impact of media is to deliver value for clients and marketers and businesses, and I think we should be able to deliver that impact. And if that is the case, I actually think it creates a virtuous cycle that will be good for all, because it fundamentally increases the economic pie, and then it doesn't become a reductive conversation on market share or how much am I getting or what is the input metric that we are chasing. For me, that's the only advice that I have.
I mean, Nawal has to ask two more questions, but I'll ask you this question. Is there was an entrepreneur, he or she, who was starting a media business and the choice of being purely digital and doing TV plus digital and had a great brand, what should he or she do? Do TV plus digital or should do only digital?
In terms of leveraging it as a marketing vehicle?
As creating a media product.
Okay. Yeah,
Suppose you had a limit, and money was not an issue. If money was an issue, let's say if I had business value, and if I had to do a 24-hour OTT in a business or do a TV plus OTT, what should I do? Let me give you a real example.
Yeah, I think it depends on the context of the business, Anurag. I wouldn't say that in every business context you have to spend 100% on digital. That's not even what we tell our own clients, right? I think depending on the context, if you're a e-commerce company, I think the time has come for you to put a lot more on digital. I think if you're a non-e-commerce company, it will be a mix of vehicles, I would suspect. So our advice to clients also is that it is not that it has to be a binary sort of rendition of this. In many cases, it'll be a combination of vehicles, and that's totally fine. But I suspect in most cases today, people are not spending as much on digital as it is ideal for them.
So we are moving from content to community to commerce. I wanted to talk to you about social commerce, but now let's two questions, and that will be my last question to you. Nawal.
So Ajit, Facebook has been at the forefront of innovation, and we saw, like you rightly said at the beginning, Instagram has been the original influencer platform, and we also saw what TikTok did in the last few years. Credit to them, they curated the short video format, and it really did well. And what we have seen in the technology space, a lot of tech companies can upend the established business models of large tech companies and come up with killer products, and the ground beneath your feet shifts very quickly. So, what does Facebook do to kind of not allow somebody else to do a Facebook on you, which is out innovate you?
I don't think we can make sure that I would kind of the first one, Naval, is I don't think there's a way not to allow, right? The reality is it can happen. There is there's extraordinary competition, and exactly as you mentioned it, the history of technology companies, and especially let's say the internet companies in the last 15 to 20 years, is that you do have small companies show up and completely dislodge large companies from their leadership positions. And we have seen many large companies go from massive amount of success to nothingness in a very short period of time. So I think that can happen to any company, is the reality of it. And that is the hallmark of innovation, right? You can fundamentally disrupt the order of things, and that will continue to be the case. So I don't think neither Facebook nor Google nor ByteDance, TikTok, or nor Amazon or any of these companies can ever feel secure that they're in a position where they cannot be disrupted or they cannot be dislodged from leadership positions in particular segments. So I just don't think there is any secret formula to it. I think the only way is to make sure that, exactly as you said, you're focused on innovation, that you're constantly thinking, what is the new creative tool that you can create for the creator? How can you make something even more elegant than it is now? I think that's the only way, but there is absolutely no way to 100% make sure that you're not going to get disrupted. I just don't think that's the wall.
Yeah, sure. My second question, Anurag touched upon that a little bit, and you guys were very seriously interested about, as I said, IPL rights the last time around, and now we've seen this new trend of movies being picked up by OTT players. And at the heart of it, Facebook is also a content company, right? There is user-generated content, obviously, is a large part, but you're also tying up with other partners. Would Facebook look at getting into something like that, where you go and pick up, rights of, movies and put it on the platform?
Again, I do think, Naval, for many reasons, I would make a distinction between what the streaming platforms are doing and what Facebook is doing, right? Again, I think as someone who started Hotstar, I'm excited about the movies that are going to come on Hotstar. But I wouldn't kind of lump us all in the same bucket, either as content or media, because I think to where we started, our secret sauce is the fact that we connect friends and family, or we help people pursue interests, help build communities. And in that context, as you said, people express themselves. Our partners use our platforms, whether that's Hotstar or ICC, to again build communities that they want to build. So I genuinely don't think we are looking at it from the lens of should we buy movies and put it on Facebook. I don't think that's our thinking. I think it's up to the studios to figure out, the production houses to figure out, as they think about a world which has been disrupted, where for health reasons, if theaters are not open, is there a role that Facebook can play in making sure that we can expand the viewership of movies, even if that viewership is finally happening on Hotstar? That's a question for Hotstar. It's a question for the production house, and where we have an enabling role to play because of the size and scale of our platforms in India, because of our daily engagement in India. We'll be very happy to be an ally for both Hotstar and for production houses. But I don't think the starting point of that conversation will come from saying, let's go and buy movies.
Okay. Ajit, my personal question, and then I'll take 3 of the 8 audience questions. It's not a platform to say my Facebook account has been disabled. I think you should write to Mark Zuckerberg. Why should you write to Ajit Mohan about it? I'm of course kidding. You should write to the Facebook helpline, whatever. That's not a question I want to put to Mr. Mohan. But my question to you is, what is Ajit Mohan's leadership style? Uh, how do you see yourself when you engage with such talented people in your team? I happen to know most of them, if not all of them, and they have some incredible things to say about you. So, what, and I want to hear from you. How do you use your leadership style, and what has it evolved from?
It's interesting, and I must confess, uh, maybe because I don't want to acknowledge my age, I don't want to answer questions around leadership style because it seems like a answer that people give at the end of their careers, Anurag, and um, and I guess I've always stayed away from kind of creating a fixed framework. But thank you for the question, and thank you. I think if my colleagues are being kind about me, so I'm kind of thinking on this on the fly. Um, One, I think you did see I have a bias towards people who are open, a positive bias towards people who are open, right? I like engaging with people who are open in terms of uh, uh, both their ability to be straight with me and their ability to take straightness from me. And I do genuinely think being open and agile is a big part of how people are going to be successful. I think second is I do like orientation of people towards impact. It's a lot more exciting to work with people who uh, whose primary driver is not a personal metric, is not a personal career metric, is not a financial metric, but is a metric about I have a goal in terms of having a certain impact on the world or a constituency. I'm not saying personal career growth or money or any other metric should not be important, but that should be a byproduct.
It always is, and
yeah,
it always is in
yeah,
any sphere of work. If you're a
yeah,
cricketer, if you're a movie star, if you're a teacher,
yeah,
and look at Byju's, for example. I mean, he just wanted to make sure that the learning experience was good
yeah.
because he was a teacher, as you know, he was a teacher, and then came out Bauji. So good, I buy that. My last question, and I only bring the last three. When we talk to you in 6 months, 1 year, where do you think Reels will be? Or where do you want it to be? Whenever you launch a product, while you're open and you ask all the right questions and you do the right things and hope, but you must have done some numbers on where it could be.
I have one personal metric, Anurag, and that's the only metric that I'm going to track with my teams here. I don't know whether it can happen in 6 months. In 12 months, it has a shot, maybe in 2 years, even a better shot. Have we enabled a big global moment or global star out of India? Whether that comes from an existing celebrity in an Indian context or from a creator that we haven't yet heard of. That's my metric. I think Instagram, defines global culture, and I would be proud if we can have an India moment that is on the global map.
Fantastic. I'll take 3 questions out of the 9 now. One is Rumit Sodi is asking, when is FB Shops getting launched in India with all big and MSMEs going online big time? FB Shops can be very helpful to SMEs who can invest much on online and get the huge reach.
Nothing to share yet, Anurag, in terms of dates. Anurag, I must confess, I do have a 5 o'clock, but I can do another 5 minutes.
Yes, I'll take quickly the question so that Rajat Sabarwal is asking, first, any plans of Facebook coming with subscription, no ads, high-level privacy, personal content, plus some other premium features? Who visited my profile? And second, any strategy to dealing with fake news on WhatsApp?
On the first one, I think it's a pretty deeply held belief in the company that we should keep all our products for free for consumers. That is the way that large number of people can benefit, and in that world, therefore, the revenue model will obviously be disproportionately focused on advertising. We have a lot of things that enable subscription for others, so that continues. But I think we'll be very oriented towards keeping it free. On WhatsApp, it's a longer conversation. we already do a lot of work in terms of limiting the spread of misinformation, and happy to engage with that as a longer conversation.
This is my last question, which comes from Ms. Khurana. She's asking, is there a way you have on the recent update on IDFA, which seems to be making many other app marketers and internet companies rethink measurement and attribution in absence of it, as well as impact on digital spends?
Yep. Look, I think I assume Ms. Khurana is referring to measurement, TV measurement. I think it's an interesting question, but my only point is, I do think the world will benefit from clear measurement, but I would urge that we all work towards creating a measurement that's focused on an output metric, impact, rather than disagreeing, as we have all vehemently disagreed for the last few years, on an input metric.
On a daily basis.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ajit. I think you've taken all the questions that needed to be filtered. There are 10 and about 14 questions, but I think I've given you the relevant ones. It's not a cribbing forum. So we know that Facebook and you as a leader do your best to live up to the values that Facebook stands for. And kudos to you on what you've done to spread the healthcare information and help in the public awareness of how to deal with COVID. So we wish you luck, Ajit, and look forward to having a conversation soon again where we can learn about where the digital economy is headed and the role of Facebook and the role of the various products and services that Facebook has in India. And I'm sure that Facebook's faith in India will lead to the Indian economy benefiting from it. Thank you, Ajit.
Thank you so much, Anurag. Really appreciate it.
I learned something new, and as I keep saying, when I grow up, I want to be like you.
No, not at all. Thank you, Anurag. Thanks, Naval. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.